It's do or die time in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. It's Auburn. It's Georgia. Does Hugh Freeze have a chance against Kirby Smart? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the Rapport. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us up, turn us on. We'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, John Smith, owner and publisher at Speakeasy Sports. Follow him on Twitter, by the way. Great follow at John Tweets Sports.
I apologize in advance. If you follow me on Twitter.
John, you do great work.
Yeah.
You and I, we've been friends for a number of years here, man. I appreciate you taking some time to talk a little Auburn, Georgia here today. The game is tomorrow, and as of this recording, Auburn is in a precarious situation. I think really needing the win versus Georgia. If you're Georgia, you can survive a loss on Saturday. Your whole season's still in front of you. But Auburn hasn't fared well in this matchup here in the last. I mean, they haven't won it since 2017. And they won it and lost it in that year. Year, having faced Georgia in the SEC championship game. How do you see this one playing out, John? I mean, Georgia has just been kind of the machine that just keeps going.
Listen, this is so interesting to me. People rank rivalries and these types of things. I think Georgia Auburn, for my money, is not talked about enough because of the recent results, right? Like Georgia winning, 17 of the last 20. Winning 8 in a row. You mentioned 2017, and then Georgia turned around a few weeks later, won the SEC championship. So because it has been one-sided recently, I don't think this rivalry gets the credit that it deserves, number one. I think these fan bases, like Jordan-Hare Stadium, at night, environment, all those things, I think this is going to be a really, really good game. And I agree with your assessment right off the top. This feels like, it's hard to say you have a must-win game in game, 5, I guess, for Auburn, or 6 for Georgia. Boy, it feels like a must-win game for Hugh Freeze, and Auburn, and even more importantly, if it's not a must-win, it feels like a must-show a lot of progress. And I know, like, moral victories are not a thing. People don't like to talk about them. People, win the football game, but dude, can you get the ball to Cam Coleman? Can you get the ball in a single? Can Jackson Arnold, actually operate the offense at a higher level against a Georgia defense that's not getting a lot of pass rush right now? A Georgia defense that is a little bit weak in the secondary. It's still Georgia, but I think for me, we can get into those details. But I think for me, it is maybe a must win. It's definitely a must show a lot of progress for Hugh Freeze and Auburn.
Look, as I mentioned, with Saban retiring, Kirby he took up the mantle. At SEC Media Days, I voted Georgia as my conference champion. I have not changed my opinion of that. I don't care what's happening at Ole Miss. I think they're pretenders. I don't see. They're going to collapse down the stretch, John.
Yeah.
They're going to collapse down the stretch. And when they do, Georgia will still be standing, win or lose on Saturday. But this was a game that we used to play in November, moved it to October. Mainly Auburn fans complaining, we got to play Georgia and Alabama in back-to-back SEC games every single November. Completely not fair. But you got what you wanted. You got a game in mid-October with a lot at stake here. If you're Georgia, after Auburn, right now, currently, this sounds crazy, there are only 2 ranked matchups currently on the schedule after this. Ole Miss, number 4 Ole Miss, and number 13 Georgia Tech at the end of the season. But the rest of those games, I got to believe, Florida.
Shout out unranked Texas. Texas is coming to Athens, but it doesn't show up on the radar anymore.
Unranked Texas.
Shout out unranked Texas.
Oh man,
because Georgia still plays Texas in Athens. which was going to be when you started the year and you look down the schedule. You had Alabama, you had Texas.
It looked brutal.
Ole Miss, and it definitely. But to your point, Georgia needs to win this game. Georgia has enough games left on the schedule to bounce back if Auburn happens to win this game. You can
Yeah.
turn around the next week and you're going to be playing a top 10 Ole Miss
Top
team,
5.
right? The
Yeah.
top five, absolutely. You turn around the next week and you got an opportunity to get right back in the thick of things if you do lose this.
Little
But
bit of
I
a
think
revenge factor to that game as well too,
uh,
with Ole Miss taking it last year. I they got over their Georgia hump and then still missed the playoffs. Only
yeah.
Lane Kiffin.
Well, in 2023, Ole Miss, and I know we want to talk about Georgia Auburn, but 2023, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, you talk about pretenders. Uh, Ole Miss came into Athens ranked, I believe they were top 10, I believe they were top 15, maybe top 10. And Kirby beat Lane Kiffin 52-13 or whatever it was. I mean, just embarrassed them, just ran him out of the stadium. And I think, yeah, I think Ole Miss could have one of those coming if based on what happened last year. But that being said, yeah, Georgia has an opportunity to bounce back if Auburn were to take this game. The challenge for Auburn, Mike, Kirby doesn't lose to unranked teams. He just doesn't. The guy just doesn't. Um, every loss, which hasn't been many, but every loss that he's had since 2019 has been to a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that's going to be the challenge, I think, for Auburn is um, Georgia is very, very good. Kirby Smart is very, very good at getting his team consistently ready to play week after week. And so you used to have, kind of these concepts of like trap games, and you used to have these concepts of like, oh, you going on the road at night versus an unranked team. It's a little sneaky. And that's the thing with Kirby that Nick Saban had as well. It's like these teams don't sneak up on Georgia. I mean,
Yeah.
Kirby, it is consistently week after week, and it might be closer than people, Georgia fans want it to be. But that's the thing is like that's going to be the challenge for Hugh Freeze and Auburn is that especially with Kirby, having coached Alabama for so long, having coached in an Iron Bowl on as a defensive coordinator, and then he played at Georgia, and then he's coached at Georgia. The Auburn game ain't gonna sneak up on Kirby. I don't care,
They
what
said
situation Auburn is
at
in. Yeah,
media days,
yeah,
they all they talked about was how hard it is to go into Jordan and get and play and win.
yeah,
The Georgia
yeah.
players said it. They were like, it is
Hmm.
still the hardest place to play in the country, in their opinion. Now, night at LSU is the hardest place to play in the country. Yeah, if we're being
Correct,
keeping a buck,
correct.
but there was a respect from the Georgia end, even
Mhm,
though the results have been lopsided, but these have been hard fought games. I mean, this was a two-score game going into the fourth quarter last year
mhm.
with Auburn just down by 10 with the ball at midfield. We all know the infamous
Yep.
confusion on the fourth down call with Peyton and Hugh.
Mhm.
But you've got to.
And 2 years ago, Auburn should have won the football game. Brock Bowers turned into superhuman Brock
Oh
Bowers.
man,
I mean,
yeah.
he turned into he did what Brock Bowers is now, has been doing in the NFL now for 2 years, but Auburn should have won 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, again, the results have been
Mhm,
lopsidedly in Georgia's favor, but there have been some really hard fought
mhm.
games in this series here in recent years. If you're Auburn, you have to hold up your end of the bargain, man. You've got to make this what is one of college football's great rivalries
Mhm.
um, somewhat relevant again by winning. You got to
Yeah.
win your fair share. Before we're going to get to the break here, but before we do, I just want to close giving you the floor to tell me how you see this one playing out on Saturday. I give me a winner and give me a why and give me a score.
Yeah, I think this one. I think Georgia's going to win the football game. No surprise,
I picked Georgia to win.
and but I do think that this is going to be a closer game um, than a lot of people
Three
want
and a
to
half
give the
point
credit
spread.
for. Yeah, well, it's a 3.5 point spread, but I still think like there's a difference between 3.5 point spread and it actually being still a close game, right? There's a lot of games that are won by a touchdown or won by a field goal that didn't feel like a close game. I think this is going to be a game that's going to go into the fourth quarter. It's going to feel like a close game because I think the Auburn crowd, the juice that Jordan Hare is going to bring, and I think Auburn, besides Texas A&M, whatever happened to Texas A&M with a run game, I think Auburn was trying to keep, some of those explosive plays from happening with the wide receivers for Texas A&M and got gashed a little bit in the run game. But Auburn has been very, very good against the run. Georgia wants to run the football. And I think that's going to be the matchup of, I think Auburn's going to be able to stop Georgia a little bit in the run game. And I think Auburn's going to be able to get a little bit of pressure on Gunnar Stockton and force him to try to beat you. The key is going to be, can Jackson Arnold do anything to run the offense at a high level? Because the Georgia secondary, you saw it with Ty Simpson, Alabama. I mean, the guy came in, he was like 9 for 9 on third down, to start the game. Like the Georgia secondary will give up some plays if you can protect and prevent Georgia from getting pressure on Jackson Arnold. So I think that's going to be a key, but I think Georgia's going to win. I think it's going to be, my gut tells me it's going to be a 27-17 kind of
Ooh,
game.
okay.
But I could see it 27-24. I could see a real close game. I'm just not sure, Mike. Auburn fans, do your voodoo, whatever y'all do over
Oh,
there.
Jesus.
But yeah, your Auburn Jesus. Pray to Auburn Jesus all day today and tomorrow morning before the game. Pray to Auburn Jesus because I'm not sure Auburn can score enough points to win the football game. And
That's been the question.
and there's no reason they have the players to do it. They have the skill players to score. And for my money, the Auburn wide receiver room is better than the Alabama wide receiver room that Georgia played. I would also say for my money that Jeremiah Cobb, one of the best running backs in the league. Auburn has the skill players. Just can the offensive line and Jackson Arnold actually operate the offense at a high level?
Yeah, well said, my friend. We're gonna get to the break here. I want to thank you for joining me here today, John. Please go follow John on Twitter at John Tweet Sports. Also, you've got a project that's in the works here.
Yeah.
Guys, do me a favor, go to speakeasysports.com and join the wait list.
Yeah.
They are building a fantastic sports community that will be all encompassing for SEC fans, premium content, real fan community, and real specific clubs. I love what you guys are getting ready to launch there.
Yep.
And we can't wait to partner with you guys. This segment of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at AIM and Associates. That's Abel's I Know More and Associates. Guys, they've been in business for almost 25 years. They manage over 200 million for clients in over 25 states and 2 foreign countries. They're not some big corporate operation. This is an Auburn family providing honest guidance and top-notch service. You get the feel of a small town with years of insight, perspective, and results. Jeff, David, and Colin are great to work with. Contact Abel's I Know More and Associates at 912-777-4128 or visit aiminc.com to see why they're different. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's I Know More and Associates for this endorsement. AIMA is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Also, want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop potentially has something that has you covered. If you've got some traditional ailments and you're looking for some non-traditional remedies, though, the Rogue Shop could have the product for you. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsor of the show, dropping a little something extra in there for everybody using code Rapport today. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. If you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, find yourself at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renfro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at Sky Tobacco and Vape. Need a smoke shop that's always close by? Sky Tobacco and Vape has you covered all over Columbus and even across the bridge in Phoenix City. Whether you're cruising down Airport Thruway, rolling along Victory Drive, or making a pit stop on the bypass, we've got a spot ready for you. From vapes to tobacco and everything in between, Sky Tobacco and Vape is your one-stop shop for good vibes and great deals. Swing through today. Chances are they're already on your way. Joining me for the second half of this afternoon's show, senior writer at thewarreport.com, Logan Fowler. Logan does a great job of writing for us, just writing in general. Logan, thanks for jumping on with me this afternoon. Auburn, Georgia. This feels like the one Hugh Freeze has to get now. I didn't think we'd be here, but we're here. Auburn has started 0-2 in SEC play. Georgia is next up. They come to the Plains, and it feels like Hugh Freeze has to get this game. Fans are very nervous based on what they saw offensively from Auburn versus Texas A&M. Talk to me, man, about the one big key to this game for Auburn. Auburn will win this game if they do what exactly?
If they will commit to the run game, right? That's what
Yeah.
everybody's talking about. That's the big
Yeah.
one. Well, look, it's not just as much about committing to the run game to get your ball carriers involved, right? Obviously, you want Damari Austin, you want Jeremiah Cobb to get the ball in space and have the ball in their hands. But look, if you commit to the run on first down, now Auburn is 3 of 28 in the last 2 games on third down, and it did not or convert on a single third down against Texas A&M, which is the first time since 2006 that Auburn has not converted on a single third down in a game.
Mm.
Why is that? Because you have an average distance to go of 11 yards on third down. Why is that? Because Jackson Arnold is dropping back dang near 50 times a game.
Yeah.
So let's you got all of these things are factor into the run game. If you're averaging 3 to 4 yards on first down and setting yourself up for second and third and manageables, then you obviously are going to see more success on offense. You're going to keep the defense off of the field for longer. You're going to have longer sustained drives, and keep Georgia's best unit off the field, like I just said. So all of these things factor into it. But look, yeah, like I said, look, Georgia's run defense is pretty good. All right,
Yeah.
they're I think according to PFF, they've got the third best run grade defense in the nation. So they're pretty good up front, and that's something that you're gonna have to kind of work around, obviously. But look, Hugh Freeze has said it. Everybody's thinking it. Auburn's got to commit to the run game, and it needs to happen this Saturday.
Talking about that Georgia run defense, these are two really evenly matched defensive teams. Georgia allowing only 82 yards per game on the ground, Auburn allowing 88 yards per game on the ground. And then looking at these two teams through the air, again, very evenly matched. Auburn allowing a 227 yards per game, Georgia 231 yards per game. And even on the scoreboard, man, 16 points per game allowed for Auburn, 18.4 points per game allowed for Georgia. What this comes down to is whose offense is going to be able to exceed expectations here. I don't think anybody thinks that Auburn is going to be the most likely team to exceed expectations on offense. But committing to the run, establishing the run, I think that's all this comes down to. If you're Auburn, when you opened up against Baylor, the first drive didn't do anything. Right? They tried to run the ball, they couldn't. They came back the next drive, they stuck with the run, and eventually they just leaned on Baylor until they broke their spirit, man. It was demoralizing what that Auburn run game did to Baylor. Now, Georgia is not Baylor defensively, and they've got way better athletes. But versus Texas A&M, they just abandoned the run. The run wasn't stopped. They just abandoned it. Damari, 6 carries. Jeremiah Cobb, I'm sorry, it was Jeremiah Cobb, 6 carries. Damari, 2 carries. And then you had Jackson Arnold with a bunch of unscheduled runs. I think he had 15 carries in that game. Ridiculous. Logan, how does Hugh Freeze, if you're inside Hugh Freeze's head, how does he look at what he did the last in the last game versus Texas A&M and say, I can't do that again. I have to stick to the run. How does he keep from hitting that panic button in his head that says, I got to throw the ball a bunch of times if we're going to win this game?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that he's probably going to think about is, he was asked yesterday, hey, do you feel any pressure about coaching for your job? Well, Hugh Freeze, you're coaching for your job, and you're going to have to do, what is going to give you the most success, and that's running the ball. Now, look, Georgia, and rightfully so, as every other team should do against Auburn, is going to probably stack the box and leave their corners on islands against Auburn's receivers because the downfield passing attack for Auburn hasn't necessarily been there. So how do you open up some running lanes for Cobb and Austin out of the backfield? Are you going to commit to a couple of quick, plays, quick screens, quick slants, quick, out routes to your receivers to kind of open up that box? I just don't think that he needs to panic and say, okay, Jackson, let's drop you back two times to start, first and second down.
Mm.
Let's drop you back here. Um, I think that he's gonna just like you said. Look, Auburn went 3-and-out against Baylor. Hasn't had very much success on opening drives at all against anybody this year. Just because the run doesn't work on your first 1, 2, 3 drives does not mean that you have to abandon it, and does not mean that you have to solely rely on Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton to go win you a ball game. Because again, play to your offensive strengths, play to your offensive line strengths. Their strength is in run blocking. Um, and again, I think that this is probably the most evenly matched Auburn offensive line versus Auburn defensive line. There is an evenly matched game between Auburn and Georgia, and probably the most evenly matched we've seen in ever. I mean, in recent memory, at
Yeah.
least. So I mean, look, play to your strengths, run the ball, don't abandon it just because it doesn't work out a couple plays in the early goings, and see what your guys can do, and then just have faith in them.
I think I would like to see them let these guys use their speed to get to the edge a little bit more as well too. We saw Jeremiah Cobb break one out of that Texas A&M defense. Ike did the film review, man. Like people were running the ball in Texas A&M, so I don't know why Auburn suddenly felt like they couldn't run the ball in Texas A&M. Very, very bizarre there that they put all the pressure on Jackson Arnold's arm when you've got backs capable of taking that load off of him. Before we get out of here, I did want to touch on the idea about whether Hugh Freeze is coaching for his job this weekend. I have a couple sources that have told me that not necessarily coaching for his job, but they're going to be looking at a lot of stuff depending on how this game goes offensively. You cannot be bad at the things that you're supposed to be an literal expert at. And uh, that was bad offense that we saw versus Texas A&M. I think it was creative, imperfect, but effective enough versus Oklahoma. Versus Texas A&M, outside of a fluke interception return, they might not score a touchdown in that game. Logan, that's an unacceptable floor, I think, for a guy in Hugh Freeze's position, making over $6 million a year. What do you think about him? Should he be coaching for his job? I don't know that I'm in the camp that I think he should be fired if they lose to Georgia, but I hope that he feels some heat, man, here, because a lot is riding on his ability to be able to win football games. And with all the hubbub around the Baylor game moving for next year, moving to Atlanta, and I think it highlights how much this means in this community. And you have been made the steward of it. If you're Hugh Freeze, you've got to show that that was a smart decision by John Cohen to bring you in and make you the guy responsible for the emotional well-being of an entire generation.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, you mentioned it. I do think that Hugh Freeze is feeling a little heat. Just I think he should be, rightfully so. Look,
He needs to be.
Auburn is 14-16 overall in the Freeze era. They've won one game against a ranked opponent in 11 attempts, or 1-10. They have not beat a ranked opponent. Auburn hasn't beat a top 10 opponent since 2021. And this is a perfect weekend to do it. They've had three opportunities in a row, and you failed. But it's about time that Auburn football gets back to its winning ways. It's time that Auburn football can take on a top 10 Georgia team, and a top 10 Georgia team that's not necessarily the same Georgia team that has we've seen in the past. Like, it's
They're
time for you
gettable.
to take advantage of these opportunities. Look, you've got to see offensive improvements, no doubt. That's what got you here. You said it in your opening press conference. I'm a quarterback developer. Uh, you haven't quite seen any quarterbacks developed under Freeze
Yeah.
so far. So look, That's something that's got to look better. Offense simply has got to look better. And do I think a move is going to be made after Georgia? Not necessarily, but could you imagine what happens if you go out? You looked bad against Texas A&M, you look bad against Georgia, and then you look bad against Missouri. That's not a good resume right there, man. And that's that would bring some bad news, I would think, unfortunately, to the Plains. But we're not going to think that way. We're going to think that Hugh Freeze has took that bye week to reevaluate, like he said he would, to kind of figure out what's going on offensively. He said he did a lot of thinking. They did a lot of offensive line, testing and searching what's going on there. Talked to Jackson Arnold about being a little bit freer and giving the playmakers a chance. And then obviously he's admitted time and time again that he needs to commit to the run. So I would expect the offense to look a little bit better and give Hugh Freeze a little bit of confidence moving forward.
Uh, Thinking is great, doing is better. Hopefully, Auburn will do on Saturday night versus the Bulldogs in Jordan-Hare Stadium. We'll be there covering it live as always. Logan Fowler, senior writer at thewarreport.com. I want to thank you for joining me, guys. Hit the video, hit the comments after the video. Let us know what you think. Is Hugh Freeze coaching for his job on Saturday? Should he be? Should that pressure be ratcheted up on the Hugh Freeze tenure? We want to hear from you. And while you're there, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we are doing here going. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.